3 behaviors that you do that actually push people away. Now, this could be when it comes to dating and meeting women, but this could also be when it comes to networking, making more friends. And I've made these mistakes in my 20s and even over the last couple of years. Like some of these gems that I'm actually gonna share with you in this video, I've learned the hard way, and there's some subtle nuance to them. So I wanna share this with you guys because these are not obvious things like, you need to look good and you need to make sure your breath doesn't smell like shit. This is actual applicable techniques to use in your day-to-day right now. And the very first one I want to share with you is one I've struggled with over the years because I built my business up to a point where it's making, at this point, multiple 6 figures a month. I have amassed a following of over 1 million people online. I've coached 800 plus men at this point. I relocated from New Jersey. I'm living in the Miami penthouse. I've made a really big transformation. And so I noticed that guys that are on their self-development journey, we've all made a similar mistake in our day-to-day. Because when I first moved to Miami, and even if I look back in my last year or two living in New Jersey, as I started to rise up, I had these thoughts when I would go out and meet people that I would actually judge a lot of people thinking that we weren't that like-minded, that we didn't really click, or that they're not that cool, or they're not that successful. And I think because of this, I actually closed myself off to more people than I really should have. All right, and again, I'm not saying that you need to be best friends with every single person, but what I'm saying is that as we start to level up as men, you'll have a tendency, maybe it's slightly even egotistical, maybe it's actually just based off of facts. Like in my case, I had a lot of statistics on paper that indicated that I was very successful. So I don't think it was really ego, but it was kind of just the life that I was living. And I noticed that I'm not giving that many people a chance. It's almost as if they're not higher value than me, or if we don't click immediately and we're not like boys and I feel like there's a lot of alignment, I almost would write off all of these different people. And so I want to share this with you guys because there's a mindset shift here that just because you don't click with someone immediately, just because you guys aren't boys, just because you don't have all of the same shared values, does not mean that that person cannot be friends and be in your life. It also does not mean that that person cannot be of tremendous value in your life. So most likely you are writing people off way too soon without even giving people a chance. And here's the thing is you don't necessarily need to clear out your schedule for all of these people. What I recommend in a lot of different videos on my channel, I show you guys different ways that you can sort of bring people in your day-to-day life. That includes them coming to get a workout in with you. If you're going out at least once a week to do some sort of social outing, you can send invitations to all the people you meet throughout the week. You don't need to spend a tremendous amount of time with any one individual person trying to force a friendship there. But what I'm saying is be more open-minded that, look, everybody in the world has some sort of value to offer to you. And just because you think that there isn't an immediate connection, you guys aren't immediately best friends. I mean, look, most relationships don't actually blossom into a perfect friendship instantly. Friendships are built over time with familiarity, rapport, being in different environments with each other, connecting on deep levels, which oftentimes takes multiple sessions of interacting with each other and spending hours together collectively. So switch your perspective up on this first one because honestly, I just didn't give enough people a chance, and I really made it a priority this year to start hanging out with more people. Maybe I might not have even tried to hang out with previously. And again, maybe partially ego, partially facts, just based off of an initial first impression. But you don't really know a lot of these people until you spend a decent amount of time with them. Now, on the other side of this, if there's massive red flags on the front end and there's just zero alignment, look, you should still have some sort of a screen. But the people that you're it wasn't a bad interaction. Honestly, it seems kind of cool, but you're not blown away by the person, or you're not blown away by whoever it is. You don't need to force a friendship. You don't need to force a date. But I'm saying that there is still some sort of value exchange that could be there. And if you spent more time with these people, especially in group environments or during a workout or during them tagging along with something you're going to do anyway, they're actually maybe a really good fit there. Some of my closest friends right now, two of them in particular that I hang out with on a weekly basis right now in Miami, initially, both of them, I wasn't feeling like there was a great connection there. I wasn't feeling like there was that much alignment. I knew that these other people were successful, but it wasn't until I spent hours with each of them and getting to know them that later on I actually started to really click. And one of them actually ended up becoming one of my mentors, literally. I ended up paying the guy later on. Now, if I wouldn't have even give that person a shot on the front end and just wrote it off, because of like some ego thing or just justifying I'm too busy, I would have actually lost value and be at a lower level than where I'm at right now. Okay, so this first point is more so when it comes to friends, not so much around dating, because obviously with women you could start to screen pretty early on. But when you're talking about bringing people into a social circle, don't be so judgmental on the front end. You don't really know these people. Now let's move in the second point, and this is more around dating. All right, so if you're actually interacting with a girl, you're talking to a girl, you're getting to know someone. This can also be applied to friends too, but I've noticed it a lot with dating, because at some point, if you're on date 1, 2, 3, 4 with a girl and you guys are really getting to know each other more, at some point she might start to ask you about your previous relationship. Or if you're just hanging out with people, you might just start to talk about your other friends. That's how it could apply to a friend and social circle setting. But what you don't want to do is when you're talking about friends, you're talking about family, you're talking about previous women that you've dated or your past relationship, you never want to speak negatively about these people. All right, even if they did you wrong, even if it wasn't a great fit, you don't want to be talking shit on your past relationship or a former friend. It's a bad look. All right, it's a bad look. And in fact, when I tell guys like, hey, if you're on a date, pay attention to the girl and how she talks about her past relationships too, or her relationship with her family, or her relationship with her friends, because there's just different ways to look at it. You could just speak negatively and talk down on the other person. That's one way to paint things, but there's a completely different angle where you could maybe appreciate the experiences you had with your past relationship, but you could also conclude that maybe she was in the wrong with a bunch of different things. Maybe you even had a couple things wrong, but ultimately it just wasn't a good fit long term, or maybe you guys grew apart, and that's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make them a bad person. It just means it wasn't a good fit, and you appreciate all the memories you guys had, but at the same time, you did move on from it, and you learned a lot from the experience, and you're grateful for the experience. Those are two completely different perceptions on a relationship or a friendship, and both perceptions can also be true. It's not that one person is right, the other person's wrong. Both perceptions are true. It just explains it explains the person and who they are. And typically, the person has a mindset or perception of just looking at things negatively and talking about other people or things negatively, and they're spreading negativity. That mindset and that philosophy is typically carried out in other forms throughout their life, right? So it's very rare that you find somebody that talks shit on their friends, and they talk shit on the past relationship, and they talk shit on these things, yet they're extremely loving to the closest people in their lives. Like, most likely they will like, it's universal. So if you're just a shit talker or you're just speaking negatively, even if the person was in the wrong, I still encourage you guys to have a little bit more class, to have a little bit more professionalism, have a little bit more maturity, and still speak about these people in a way that doesn't talk down on them. I don't think you should be talking down on anybody personally. All right, I think it's a very mature way to look at things, and it's a respectable thing, and people will notice this. There's slight details in these things. Like, I was actually talking with Delha recently, and there was this one point that was brought up about one of our friends that dated a little while back, and they were saying that we noticed he brought up his ex in a way where it made it sound like she was like a really bad person. He was calling her like fucking bitch, this and that, blah, 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 blah. And it just has even if it's true, it just shines a light back on the person. So again, this is a subtle thing, because a lot of times if you've been in a relationship or friendship, you feel like you're in the wrong. But I would encourage you guys to not talk negatively about these other people when discussed in your day-to-day. And I always pay attention to how other people talk about the people in their lives. Not because I care about those people, it's more about a perception of how they view the world and how they feel about the situations, right? It's important. So it's a very subtle, easy way to screen people. And a lot of you guys might not realize you're actually pushing people away by doing that one. The last and final one I want to talk about is the idea of leading with value. But let me explain this, because it's not maybe what you think it was. I've always heard this term, you need to lead with value, but I started to experience this recently as I started to hang out with more high-level people in Miami over the last year. There's two people in particular that I noticed that the first 2 times I hung out with both of them, not only were we in some get-to-know-you talk where we were vibing, there was rapport built, and I got a better understanding of what they do and what they've been through and what their goals are, and then I also kind of shared the same about myself. But what I noticed was when I talked more about myself and what I'm going through and my goals and my struggles and all these things, was that the other person I was speaking to, they always ended things by providing value back to me in terms of solutions or guidance or recommendations based off of the experiences that they've been through. And I noticed this because when I leave, in our text conversation, in both of them, coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, in both conversations in my inbox, they had sent me links to different references. They sent me an audio message breaking down their experience with the thing, and then at the end of it, they kind of explained why they would recommend that thing, right? And one of them was more health and fitness related and supplements and biohacking. The other one was around business and ads and structuring out a different offer and how they kind of struggle with those things and they were able to overcome them in their lives. And there was also a third person, now that I'm speaking about this, he wasn't able to actually deliver to me any specific value himself, but he knew another person that could. So I left that interaction and he actually sent me a contact info along with a voice message saying, this person can help because he's been through this, blah, 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 blah. I'll actually merge us into a group chat together just to give you guys the introduction. And if you guys move forward, great. If not, it's all good. But that's a third way you could also provide value to other people. So when you're meeting people, not only are you trying to connect with them, but give them a good vibe and be enthusiastic and stuff, I would encourage you to go above and beyond and find a way to actually deliver value to these people, right? That means that you're providing them solutions, you're giving them insights that you went through, you're talking about your previous struggles, you're talking about things that really worked for you, or if nothing else, you're trying to connect them to another person who is more aligned with what they're going through that could also help them or give them a recommendation, or you send them a video, or you send them a link to a thing. I've noticed that it's not a coincidence that it's happened with both of the highest level people I've met. But now also, if I look at my own interactions, like literally when I was thinking about this video, I went back into my own messages and I noticed some of the people I've connected with over the last 6 months or so. And when I look back on our combos, I noticed that I actually did this thing. The reason that we ended up connecting, the reason that they reached out to me afterwards or were thanking me is because they saw value in me, right? And the reason they did that was because I had already been through some of their situations and I was able to just suggestively recommend things that they could do based off of what was working for me. So you always want to lead with value. Do not be greedy with these things. Do not think you also need to have the perfect solution. Just offering a recommendation based on things that have happened in your own experiences can actually just create a more solid connection with the other person. It builds trust and it's leading with value. So this is important because when you don't do this, you walk away with just a contact info, like a cell phone number or an Instagram, and there really isn't a means of carrying a conversation from there. I meet a lot of guys outside, and even in my community, I'm on Q&As and stuff, and guys are telling me that some of them struggle to connect with other people. They struggle to connect with other people because they don't know how to re-engage a text conversation. If you rate the interaction properly, there's probably a couple different things that you could even just provide value to that person when you leave the interaction. So if I finish a conversation with you and then I send you some follow-up stuff that's like resources and value and insights, you're gonna have a tendency to respond or ask a question or talk about how that was helpful, or maybe you have a new question that pops up because you went through that situation, and then we have a back and forth about helping you fix that thing. And then as we go back and forth on that, you can inject a little bit of small talk, and then you can suggestively send an invitation for them to come join if you want to help them more, or if nothing else, you guys get a workout in together, right? So not doing this thing creates this gap after you get the contact exchange, and this could be the missing piece to actually bridge a friendship together. Yes, sending out invitations is great. That is a form of value, but it's not the only form. Another form of value besides invitations is any type of value on your experience or somebody else you know that could also help them or give them a recommendation to make their life a little bit better. So if you're not doing any of these three things, I mean, dude, you're at a massive disadvantage when it comes to connecting with people, whether that's making more friends, building a more social circle, creating more social confidence, and ultimately getting the dating life you want. Right, so you start doing this in your day-to-day right now. If you want to accelerate that process to get real results in your own social life and dating life, I'd love to help you. Click the link down below. I can work with you one-on-one and actually help you go through that process to make a real transformation to get the social life and dating life you honestly deserve.